Well, it's funny because I've been paying attention to your latest content sprint. And does it end today or did it end yesterday?
It is ending today. I'm making my final Tech in 10 soon, getting it posted hopefully before 5. And then that's a wrap for the season of Tech in 10.
Well, let me tell you, it's been very interesting because I'm not a Google Chrome user myself, but you've shown me a lot of these cool extensions that just might change that fact, because you were able to point out a lot of different productivity hacks, a lot of different cool techniques that I might be able to use in some of the stuff that I do in my social media. All this stuff via the free extensions you were able to share for Google Chrome.
Yeah, no, this time it's been interesting. So I always try to pick a topic. Obviously, everything has to do with software or technology. Most of the time, it's something to help your business productivity or just different techniques for marketing. And so I found that like when I talk about things around LinkedIn or talking about usually like email, since everyone has an email and it can relate to everyone, those kind of tech intent posts always do well. And this time, almost every single post has gotten like a similar amount of engagement. Maybe there's like one or two that like has really blown up, but all of them have done like really well.
Is this your third or fourth content sprint?
Yeah, like fourth or fifth.
Yeah. It's hard to keep track because I see you doing it what seems to me like all the time. And I guess that's an effect that everybody should be aware of. When you do stuff on social media, you might think that you're spacing it out over a significant period of time, but to the casual observer, it just feels like, oh my gosh, I see you all the time. And it's like being on the outside of someone else's feed. You get a different sense of time. It's almost like Einstein was right. Time is based on the perspective of the observer, not on the thing observed. And I see you all. This is my way. This is my long-winded DP Knudten way of saying, I see you all the time delivering really valuable stuff on LinkedIn. And consequently, you're one of my absolute favorite LinkedIn people to follow. And also one of my favorite guests on the Nonfiction Brand podcast, because for all you listeners out there, you might recognize her voice, but I'm going to introduce her. It's Sarah Groves, who is breaking things all over LinkedIn all the time. And this is your third time on the podcast, and there's a reason for that. You're always interesting to talk to, and you always deliver value. So remind our listeners what your tech sprints or what your content sprints are all about.
Sure. So thank you so much for having me. I always love being on the show, but the content sprint is kind of a trick that I have developed over the past year. About almost exactly a year ago, I started a hashtag called #TechIn10. And it was just when LinkedIn was releasing hashtags, videos were super new, and they were like pushing for these hashtag challenges using video. And so that's where I spun up #TechIn10, usually 10 days in a row. Now I've kind of like made it a little bit longer than 10 days, but 10 pieces of content, all having to do with something in common. So my kind of niche is software or technology that overlaps with marketing or business development. And so that's what I really talk about. So my content sprint is 10 pieces of content around technology and marketing. It's where I share my screen and I show like really practical tactics, how-to videos, and it's all usually within a minute or two. And so that's my secret sauce. I get a lot of engagement, a lot of people asking questions, sharing how they use the tips and tricks in their own businesses and their own personal uses. And it's really fun to just like get that feedback and have it super interactive.
Well, I have to admit that since we first talked about your content sprint strategy in the last episode we did together, I've been really paying attention to you and how you use it. And man, it is powerful, because if you set it out there that you're going to do 10 things over 10 days, day one, people might stumble on it and not look at it. Day two, they're sensitized to it, so then maybe they seek it out. And by day three, you've got people who are making a kind of date night TV commitment to checking out your stuff. It's really hard to see you put up a new one, know what it is, and not view it. And that's been the really kind of cumulative snowball thing. If it's a very small snowball on day one, it's this mammoth mountain of snow by day 10. You said that they all got kind of the same level of engagement, but did the views go up, or have you kind of come up with a consistent average view per Tekken 10 video?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes I get like, there's one video this time that I'm hoping is going to reach like 100,000 views at least. And then there's other videos that barely reach 20,000 views. And so like the average.
Oh, wow. Wow. I wish one of my posts went to 20,000. Give me a break.
But what's interesting, especially this time, is I stopped posting a little bit for a month before I like restarted this hashtag Tekken 10 series. And so that's definitely affected my initial reach. Like when I did my first video, I posted, hey guys, by the way, I'm doing Tekken 10 and today's day 1. That one is still getting likes after almost 2 weeks later. And so it's like every single day I get more and more likes on it. And usually what I've seen in the past, that content like stops its reach at a certain point. And so that's kind of a change. And maybe it's the algorithm, maybe it's a change in my followers. It's a change of like attention to LinkedIn and how often people go on, but it's just something different that I've seen this time than before. Because usually after a few days, it's kind of like it's lost in the feed, and my newer content is what shows up. But my 10-day-old content in a sea of 10 posts is still as active as one that I posted yesterday.
Wow, I think you've just stumbled on a huge shelf life hack. And that is that by doing it 10, like let's say I jump in and I discover you on day 5, I find 5 interesting, I find 6 interesting, I find 7 interesting. By number 8, not only am I going to watch it, I just might dive deep into who you are on LinkedIn, go to your past activity or your posts and view all of them. So I'm guessing that a lot of those people who are still responding to that first one are people who discovered you subsequently in one of the later episodes and actually digging down to learn more about you. And isn't that exactly what we want when we do posting, especially on LinkedIn, which is very serious. It's about making good business connections, good connections with thought leaders, and you're doing both at the same time and hacking the shelf life problem of LinkedIn and other social channels where you post it and then it's off the feed in seconds.
That's like super interesting. And really, I've never heard it positioned that way, but I love it. A shelf life value.
Well, I fully expect you to do a video on the shelf life. Call it the shelf life hack, the Sarah Grows shelf life hack. And, you don't have to give me credit because I'll pat my own back for coming up with that formulation for the idea. But it's a brilliant strategy. And it's something that we discovered together by having this conversation on a podcast because we connected with each other via LinkedIn. I mean, this is this weird time loop, time warp thing that happens, but it's so cool. And I want to tell you this story because I just saw it. A friend of mine who I worked with 20 years ago, have not talked to in 19 years, happened to respond to, I think, today's Tekken 10 video talking about it's a great series and thank you.
No way.
And then she tagged me in it. And I'm like, holy crap. She found you because she follows me. And I, of course, like all your stuff and respond to it frequently. So here's this weird kind of time warp connection happening all via the right way. It's social media working the way it's supposed to work.
Yeah, no, that's funny that you say that because the other day I went to, it was a panel event. Someone from my company was speaking. So I decided to go, and there was maybe like 2 or 3 other people there from Mute 6. And the first people I see is my coworkers, and they're talking to these 2 guys, and I come over and say hi, and they're like, "Oh, you're Sarah from LinkedIn." And I was like, "What's going on?" Like, who knew? And then it just happened to be that person I had a full conversation with like 2 days before. And it's like the world of LinkedIn is super, super small. There's so many connections that I've been making, and it's really a huge opportunity to kind of like find the missing puzzle pieces, especially the ones that have to do with your career or your professional life or just like your network in general.
Well, and I want to remind some of the listeners who may not have heard the previous conversations we did on the podcast that you are 24 years old. Is that right?
Around there, not quite.
All right. All right. Well, put it this way. The reason I bring up your age is because you're technically in the millennial / Gen Y. I don't even know what they're calling it now.
I would be closer to Gen Z, but
Gen Z. Okay. The reason I bring up your age is not anything to do with your experience or anything like that. It has to do with the generational cohort of which you are a member, closer to Gen Z than anything else. And we're told all the time that Gen Z is all about other social media channels. And yet you, Sarah Gross, are all about one specific social media channel, and it happens to be LinkedIn. And you've chosen to go deep into LinkedIn. And so when someone sees you and says, oh, hey, you're Sarah from LinkedIn, there's a reason for that. It's because you're devoting all your time to one specific channel that actually serves you the best. Am I characterizing kind of your strategy the right way?
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, like, I have people reaching out saying, hey, I'm starting this new platform and I want to share exclusive content from you. And there's just like so many opportunities. And my goal is to always drive people to like one channel where they know that it's like consistently the same. I do have like an Instagram and a Facebook. And it's actually funny. Last night, someone reached out to me on Instagram just saying, Sarah, oh my gosh, it's you. I've been watching your content. I'm like, well, it's clearly not Instagram because I don't post here. You must be talking about LinkedIn. But it's just making sure that you have those other channels, especially because you can't rely on you. If you don't own the channel, you can't 100% rely on it. So that's why I have these other channels just in case something happens to my LinkedIn and I'm not completely wiped out on social media. But I do prefer LinkedIn. There's other social media, or not really social media, but forums that I'm a part of, like Quora. I'm starting a discussion with another tech company actually that came from my Tech in 10 for another forum. I can't really talk about it yet, but I'm hoping it'll be huge and I'll be helping promote it very soon. But like LinkedIn is where I spend a lot of time. It's where I've made a boatload of friends, a lot of friends who are like, I see almost every week. And like, it's really where I've built a career off of LinkedIn.
That's amazing because, again, we're told that your cohort is not interested in LinkedIn as a major social channel, and yet you're using it to really put yourself on the map in a lot of people's minds. And as I recall from our earlier episodes, it was because no one else your age is using LinkedIn for that very reason.
Yeah. I mean, I started on LinkedIn when I was in college. It was like an intro to tech course. Everyone had to have it LinkedIn by the end of the semester. So that's what got me the profile. That's why I had every section filled out. And then I just saw a huge opportunity. I was president of a professional club on campus. So I saw just the two hand in hand. And then I was building some traction and all these new features were coming out. It was becoming more of a social network versus a static resume page. And so just seeing that and so much like a little bit of engagement, but a lot more than other people were getting at the time, I was like, why not? And like when you're able to test something out as soon as it's released, that's when you'll be able to really make a difference for the platform. And that's the opportunity to really stand out. And so that I've been seeing the same thing with like TikTok, or kind of like died out, but Instagram TV. When you're the first one to those platforms, you really blow up.
This episode of the Nonfiction Brand podcast is brought to you by Nonfiction Brandversity. It's a free Facebook group dedicated to the art and craft of personal branding, and we'd like to invite you. Just search Nonfiction Brandversity on Facebook and ask to join. You're in, guaranteed. I can't wait to see you on campus. Well, I want to go back to a comment you made slightly earlier about the fact that these are my words, not yours, diversifying your social media activity a little bit, because there's always the possibility that somebody somewhere could turn off the channel, your channel, you specifically. And it's the old, if you don't own it, it's not yours thing. A whole lot of people have discovered that. In fact, I just recently got back from this year's Social Media Marketing World, and the opening keynote with Michael Stelzner, he was, the best way I can describe it, it was like he came out as falling out of love with Facebook, because social media marketing world and Social Media Examiner has always been very Facebook oriented, not exclusively, but very Facebook intensive. And in this case, it almost felt like he woke up and realized, oh, your boyfriend's been cheating on you and it's time to kick him to the curb. And it was all about, his keynote was all about, you need to diversify. You need to have other channels. You can't just rely, in this case, on Facebook. Well, the same thing's true with LinkedIn. I mean, right now it's a pretty stable platform, but you never know when things could change. And I'm going to say it again. If you don't own it, it's not yours. So they can do whatever they want at any time.
It's kind of like funny, just the whole idea of it. A few months back, I actually found out that a former boss of mine was completely kicked off of LinkedIn. And that was 100% how he grew his business, brought in new clients for the entire agency. And he was just completely kicked off. He wasn't super left in the dust because he has a Facebook group, he has an email list, he has his own website, and he was driving people to his own website during the time that he had his LinkedIn accessible. But it's just, that's how fast things can change, and you never really know. You could do one small thing and a year later, platform picks up on it and you're just kicked out. I've always thought about starting an email list. I've posted about it just to see if there's any interest, way long ago, a few months ago. And there is some, but then it's always okay, you have a job, you have to have a personal life. You also create content on LinkedIn. You can build up this list, but when is it's always game of, okay, do you actually do it and execute? Do you wait until the time is right? Do you wait until that platform fails on you to do it? Or do you warm up the audience while you have this tandem content? And it's just a balancing act. And if you can do it, that's awesome. If you can't, you got to niche down and make sure that you at least save your content, because the content is what you own. And so if that network fails you, then you have something to start from versus completely wiped out. And so that's kind of my mindset now, is the content is what I own. I mean, every once in a while, I'll do an export of my contacts from LinkedIn, just downloading my own data and just making sure that I at least have that in case I need to build up my own network again, in case LinkedIn shuts down, in case LinkedIn shuts me down, whatever it is, I still have some stepping stones to start up again.
That's critical, because they can shut you down. And if you don't have your stuff, you are screwed. But not only that, ideally, you're doing what exactly you talked about. I want to ask you this question. Have you uploaded your Tech in 10 series, now that you have multiples of them, as playlists on YouTube?
I haven't. I actually just started organizing folders on my computer. I have the hard copies, but I haven't uploaded them to YouTube. I'm just thinking about what to do with it. I probably won't post them on YouTube. If I did post them anywhere to show anyone a content library, it would probably be on a specific website that I would be able to own. And then I would have some tricks behind that, like put a pixel on there. So in case I wanted to start a Facebook page, I know that there's a lot of other ways to drive traffic to a page. And there's just so many different strategies where I can get someone to a website and still be able to retarget them on LinkedIn. It's just another way to grab someone's attention and grab someone's information too.
I got to encourage you to take a look at YouTube, because it's the number 2 search engine. Believe it or not, it's the number 2 right behind Google is YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
My children who are in high school and college have learned to enter their search queries into YouTube first. And it's really odd to see, but it's true. I got to encourage you to check out posting your Tech in 10 series as individual, have a channel.
Right.
Every time you put up that thing, your name's there. It's incredible for SEO. People who might type in Sarah Gross in YouTube now will see, oh my gosh. So you say you have 5 of these Tech in 10 series?
Yeah, 4 from actually,
That's 50 pieces of content, girl. That's 50 pieces of content that absolutely relate to you, your search engine optimization, and the number of people who might meet you, not because they're looking for Tech in 10, not because they're looking for Sarah Gross, but they're looking at for recommendations or reviews of the specific Google Chrome extension you just talked about. They then discover you because of that. Your huge missed opportunity right now is taking what you already have and putting it on YouTube. And again, you can always go back in and write longer summaries about what it's about, or come up with lead magnet PDFs that people can download with instructions on how to do stuff. You can do that later. But right now, the lowest of low, I'm going to call it the no hanging fruit, is the 50, count them, 50 pieces of video content you already have that can go on LinkedIn tonight. Put them in separate playlists for each of the Tech and Tens under whatever the theme is. And you've already got a broadcast TV station called Sarah Gross TV with 5 different multi-episode shows to watch. No hanging fruit TM. That's how important that is. I'm slapping a TM on that, baby.
Yeah, no, that's interesting that you say that, especially. Just like working with Mute 6, we have a really close relationship with Google and YouTube. And so we were talking to a client the other day, and he was showing us this new trick he just had like a wealth of historical YouTube content. And so when you searched his product or a product similar, like his YouTube content was like top number 1. And not only that, but when you look at Google, you usually see like it's super text heavy. But with videos, you see a content card, you see the thumbnail, you see a short description, and it's so much more visual. And so that really got my mind turning when you mentioned just for the SEO aspect is super important. So I'm definitely considering it, especially right now.
Absolutely, because again, what's at the top of that page? Those thumbnails of videos on a lot of searches. And if it's always your smiling face talking about something cool, guess what? It's huge for building your personal brand. So Sarah Gross, you've got a huge personal brand on LinkedIn, but I'm here to help you teach us how you did it there. But I'm also here to help you extend that outward. And we're going to talk about that in the next episode coming up next week on how we can take what she's already got in the can and turn it into a compelling, engaging stuff on other platforms as well as other topics. But for now, I just want to end this first episode by saying thank you to Sarah Gross, spelled Grosz, pronounced Gross, not gross, because she's certainly not gross. She's lovely. I'm DP Knudten, and she is
Sarah Gross. Bye, guys.
We'll see you next week as we talk more about how we can take not only her personal brand to the next level, but yours as well. And also, I'd like to remind you, you could really help us out by referring, recommending, reviewing this podcast, because it helps other people discover it and helps us all get better at what we really, really need to do the most. And that is build our personal brands online to be as successful as Sarah's is. I'm DP Knudten for the NonFiction Brand Podcast, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.